Welcome back to Runabout Revival. In this episode, we're revisiting the past to refine the present as we address some of the kinks from earlier installations and tackle long-avoided tasks that have lingered on the to-do list. Every restoration project has its moments of trial and error, and today, we're embracing the opportunity to learn and improve. Join us as we methodically work through the challenges, fine-tuning installations, and rectifying any lingering issues that have surfaced along the way. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. This is Runabout Revival. Well, hello. It's been way too long. My apologies on not putting out a video for about a month. Actually, I have the video that I'm about to put out pretty much all done. Just a couple scenes here I'm going to record. It's actually been done since before the last one. Some of you may have noticed I actually do a lot of these videos out of order. That's because as things come in, and as I'm waiting for things, and as stuff that I planned didn't work out or needs to be adapted, I don't want to have you guys waiting forever, have the videos completely discombobulated. So sometimes I shoot stuff and it doesn't get put into a video for several episodes, and vice versa. I think you'll notice a couple of clips in this video where there's stuff in the last video that hasn't been done yet. I actually shot both this episode and last episode together, and some of it actually predates even shooting that stuff. However, the episode was going to be like half an hour plus long, maybe 40 minutes, so I split it into two. So just filming a couple last things here, including, as we can see here, the pain in the ass step that I've been avoiding for months now, which is dropping the engine so I can go ahead and swap out that crank pulley and get our last sensor put in place to finish the wiring into the ECU and get all this finally wrapped up to start doing some test firing and things. So
now let's do this!
The next step, and I've been putting this off because I really hate doing this. The next step is I got to change that crank pulley. There's the OEM pulley that I had to buy because I got rid of it 20 years ago. Thank you, Mr2 Farm. That's a Gen 2 OEM pulley with the adapter for the sensor wheel, which is right here, for the Hall sensor. Gone ahead and mounted the adapter to the pulley just so I don't have to run those long bolts once that's in there. That is a new crank pulley bolt. They tend to stretch a little bit, and since I put it on a couple times now, I figured I might as well get a new one while they still have them in stock. That is a large impact driver. It'll help me to get off that nut.
Phrasing, boom! Inappropriate.
On the crank pulley, as well as my super strong DeWalt impact gun. Engine mount on this side I still have to put on, so since I'm going to be removing the factory one to drop it down, go ahead and put the new one on there. And then that's a 3-ring, or a 3-arm and a 2-arm puller to help me get that pulley off. So got all my stuff down there for that. That's the next big job, is to drop the motor. I have to go over here, disconnect this pipe that goes down to the side mount intercooler on the bottom to give me enough room to move this down. I got to take out the bolt, cross bolt in the front engine mount, the cross bolt in the rear engine mount, and then use the engine hoist to tip this down using the hook here. Tip that down so that I can get access to pull that pulley off, since there's not enough room to do it right now. So that's fun. The reason I haven't done it because it's going to be a huge pain in the ass and I hate it already, but you got to do it. That's the only way this thing's going to run, is if I get the crank Hall sensor on there so that everything else that I've already set up will work. So got to do it. As you can see here, the engine hoist is in place. Actually, my torque wrench down there, I just went ahead and removed the 2 engine bolts that are holding up this side. I've already removed, and you can kind of see them right there. There's a bolt. That's one of the 2 engine bolts. The other one's under there as well. But the front and rear engine mount center bolts are out. And after undoing the 2 bolts on this last engine mount on this side, the only one is the driver's side that's still intact. I undid the 2 bolts from the bottom to sag the engine down. Now I'm going to go ahead and lower it with the engine hoist just low enough so I can get my pulley off there. And I'm probably also going to replace the passenger side mount while I have it undone. So wanted to film that live. So if I die, at least someone knows what happened.
Wow.
I'm of course doing this when nobody else is home right now. Luckily I got my Apple Watch on, so if I need to call 911 when I crush myself with an engine, I got that going for me. So we'll see if I can get to that pulley. It's already dropped slightly, about half an inch or so, but I need to get it dropped a little bit farther so that we can get that pulley out. So what I'm going to do now is switch my 1/2 inch driver here and put my pulley tool on, and then we'll get going. Now I'm going to hopefully, very carefully, lower the engine. Wish me some luck that it doesn't all come crashing down. So let's see how this goes. All right, I can feel the that slight noise. I believe was the axle sliding. I didn't want to remove the axle, so I'm going to see if I can get this done from there. Let me see here. I think I can clear that. That should do the trick. Now, I'll use this driver here. See if I can undo this pulley without completely cranking the motor. Yep. This guy right here, this is the trick for getting those really tough pulley nuts. I know you've seen videos probably if you watch other people trying to remove that nut that you know, a lot of leverage. This thing uses the impact wrench and the mass of the tool itself to actually multiply the force so that you can get it off with this electric driver. I don't think the engine turned. The pulley didn't turn, so we're good to go ahead and pull that out the rest of the way and swap the pulley. Hopefully I can pull it off. If not, I have my pulley pulling tools, and we'll go from there. Nice and easy. There we go. And because this one has been off and on a couple times now, I got a new one. It's still in the bag. So when it comes time to put this back in, we'll go ahead and put in the new one. Luckily I have my good old PB blaster here. Don't want to lay in that. All right. Oh my God. Well, that was a lot easier than I was expecting. I just wanted to pull on it and feel if it was tight or not. And as you can see, that was easy. No puller needed. All right. Let's see if we can get the new one on there. It's a little bit larger. Man, that was easy. I'm going to check the inside bore of the new pulley just to make sure that we don't have any issues there in terms of any kind of dirt. It might make it harder to push this on. I'll probably spray some penetrator on here as well just to make it a little easier to slide that bad boy on. I was dreading that a lot more than I probably should have. Now, hopefully this pulley is a little bit larger, as you'll see. Hopefully this guy goes right back in there. I'll show you old pulley, new pulley, or vice versa. But you get the idea. Okay, now the new one. I've already fastened the adapter wheel onto the pulley. Now it's just a matter of lining up the keyway. There we go. And then I'm going to tap that on with a deadbolt hammer. It's not the right way.
No shit!
I'm going to need some kind of, you know what, I think I can use this. Yeah, I think I'm going to use the socket tool.
Nope.
All right, I'm going to have to move the camera out of the way because I can't do this with the camera in the way. We'll come back to this in a minute. So I had to remove the adapter ring because I didn't realize that the bolt actually fits underneath it. There's a shelf there if you notice. This is the old one. It fits in there and then this bolts over it. So I did remove this ring real quick so that I could tighten the new bolt onto the crank pulley. I need to go get the torque spec on that before I finish. And then since I've already cleaned out the holes to mount this adapter, once I torque that down to spec, I'll go ahead and put that adapter back on. And after that, we can mount the tooth ring. I have to set the engine to top dead center in order to set that correctly, but that'll be the next step. I removed the passenger side engine mount. As you can see on the top here, the factory mount comes with 2 studs and then the nuts attached from the bottom. However, the innovative piece just has 2 threaded captured nuts. So I actually need to get bolts to replace those 2 studs that are no longer in use. That's the center bolt that goes through here. Actually goes from this side. On this side of the body mount, there's a captured nut that screws into. So it is Sunday, and unfortunately Ace just closed, so I'm gonna wait and grab this part tomorrow after work. Currently, the engine is literally just hanging on this side. I don't know if I can film that. And I still need to torque the crank pulley nut down, but to do that I have to hold the engine from rotating, and I wanted to get that mount in place so that I could raise the engine back up and make it a little more secure to be underneath it to do that part. Once I put the engine back up in place into the new mount, I should still have room to turn that nut and to attach the adapter piece as well. Worst case scenario, just drop it back down again with the hoist and take care of it. We'll go from there, but for tonight, that's where we're going to stop. Got back from Ace Hardware. These are M10 1.25. They are about, I forget, 1.5 or 1.75 or something like that. Either way, I checked the height where the nuts were. There's actually a nice mark, and these match up perfectly. I did have to run a tap through there. They look like on the top. You can see those bolts go pretty much to the end of the hole there, but right at the top there was some powder coating that made it into the threads. So I had to run that tap through there to clean those out, just so I had no obstructions or anything. So next I'm going to mount this back in the car, so when I am ready I can push the motor back up and reattach it to the mount. I also added, as I may have mentioned already, a flex fuel sensor, so we'll get to that here in a second. First though, I want to show you this. I added this. This is from the marine industry. Before, this black cover was not there, and there's an exposed metal bolt where the alternator cable goes to the alternator and then connects to the body cable that goes to the back. Makes it real safe here in the back. And you'll notice that I did finally secure this to the actual firewall. Before it was just sitting on a bolt. These two bolts here. On the other side, that's actually a GM AC Delco flex fuel sensor. As I mentioned before, looking down here, there's my fuel filter. Currently it goes from here right up to the fuel rail, but it's a little tight and it runs past a bunch of stuff that I don't really want it to run past. So I'm going to move that, but because it's short, I need to make new fuel lines. So instead, and I got to replace, this is still the original fuel filter. I'm going to take that out and replace it, but the new fuel line is going to go here to the GM flex sensor. From the GM flex sensor into the rail, and on the other side there's a 90 that comes back into the Aeromotive FPR, and then I'm going to replace this drain cable that goes into the drain for the tank. It's also running in a bad spot, so I'm going to move that. Since the GM comes with these quick release ends here, I already put one on here. You can see this is from Evil Energy. Get some white background there, but this is an AN6 fitting. I have another one here. Just unscrew this back part here, and it slips right over this behind the ring, and then you screw the top part into it. Converts that quick release into an AN6 fitting. So I wanted to show you that rather than put them both on there. Meantime, I'm covering it up just to make sure I don't get gunk in there. But again, this bracket here is secured into those same bolts that go and hold up the other side there. So using one bolt for two things and no risk of making a connection metal to metal on anything in the trunk side. So no worries there. Here's the Evil Energy hose. This is the PTFE flex fuel compatible hose, and I've laid out the connectors in the way that I'm going to use them. Fuel filter into the flex, out of the flex, into the rail, out of the rail, and then back into the Aeromotive. Actually, so it'll be like that. That's a lot of order there, but yeah. So that's how those are going to set up. I'm waiting for my AN tool because I apparently lost my AN tool that I used to assemble those hoses. It should be here in a couple days. I'll start assembling that fuel hose, swapped out the ones that are on there. Probably just take them off for now, drop the engine. I got a new fuel filter, OEM fuel filter coming, and then I'll put all that together after I'm done with the crank pulley stuff. On this end, I still have to mount the Hall sensor adapter. So once I put the new pulley on, trigger wheel on top of that, this is what actually holds the Hall sensor, and it goes through a couple existing factory bolt holes for the oil pump. So I got to put that on there. I just didn't want to put it on now and then accidentally like break it off or something when I'm messing with the pulley. So rather safe than sorry. I'll put that on last. Oh yes, this plate, the coil unplug plate, has been a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, let's see how you do under pressure. Oh. I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Okay. Hey. Yeah. Ain't no errors, baby.
So this is currently just sitting in here with the single bolt in the middle holding it. The problem I'm running into now, and I don't know if you can see this quite right with the light, but with this AN fitting here, this bolt hole does not line up. It's a couple millimeters off. So I'm actually going to mill this down 1 centimeter. This is 2 centimeters tall. Mill it down to that inner cutout there on this side, and then drill a new hole on the bottom just to move that bolt hole over a little bit. Since the boot it attaches to the top of the R35 Hitachi coil unplug igniter is a little bit flexible. Having it offset by just a couple of millimeters should not affect anything, so no worries there. I'm going to do the same thing on that side. So this side's going to move up, this side's going to move down, and that should give me everything I need to get those last 2 bolt holes in there. Then I can attach all that. The reason I haven't attached this line from the catch can to this is, again, I'm going to drop this motor, so just don't want to put any extra tension on that. Once the motor's back in place, I'll go ahead and secure that. And I think that pretty much is where we're at right now. So more to come. Took this to a buddy of mine that machines stuff, and he leveled this down to where the whole bottom of the bolt hole was. So I could kind of move the screw hole over a little bit and rotate that bracket so that it wouldn't interfere with that AN fitting there. And now this is bolted down. I haven't bolted that last bolt in right here yet, but this center one's tight and this one's somewhat tight. I'm going to take that off and put a washer on top just to make sure that it doesn't slip on through that hole. There's no load on that piece, so I'm not really too worried about it being super secure or anything. I just don't want it to rattle. So that's the next step, is to start custom cutting the boots that go onto the R35 injectors from the GTR and start putting that part together. So that's the next step there. Yeah, so we're getting close. All right, I'm in the process of fitting the boots here, these gray boots. You can see this is how they come originally. They're extra long. You measure how far, once you seat it all the way down around the spark plug on the bottom, you measure how far it is up from the plate. Pull that one out. And then it has these segmentations here, so you can actually just cut them off. I think there's 1, 2, 3 that are remaining on, as I remember. Don't quote me on that, but I'll check the others and cut those off. And then I have to custom fit springs in there. The way that works is these are the springs. They have these different level segmentations. You have to bend the spring a little bit to keep it from falling out the bottom of those boots. So that's what that's about. And then here are the R35 Hitachi GTR coil on plugs. I've actually already separated the factory boot off of this one. See if I can do it with one hand. And you'll see there's a little, you can probably hear it. There's a device in there that needs to be retained. You get rid of the rubber boot, you keep the little resistor that's in there, and then there's a spring in there that you don't need. Those R35 heads sit onto those gray boots, and then they're secured down with these bolt holes here. So once I put that in there, put the bolt through there, it'll hold the coil and plug down. There's actually a little cutout here, so the back of the coil actually fits down in there. So that's next on that part. I already set 3 of them at the right height. I just wanted to show you what they look like when you get them. They're long like that, and you have to adjust them. So these boots being so flexible is what allowed me to rotate this bracket so that I could fit it around this AN. Not so much the bracket that was hitting the AN, but the coil is also pretty large. So when I put the coil down on there, I wanted to make sure it was going to interfere with that AN connection there. So one last thing, I think I've said that twice. This is the cardboard adapter I'm going to move to metal. It mounts, let's see, there's a bolt hole here that goes to there, bolt here that goes to there. And these 2 are going to go into the existing 2 bolts in the back of the catch can here. These 2 here, bam, bam. And that's going to put the radiator overflow tank out right here. So a good place for it.